Oh,
Here we
wow.
go. 3, 2, 1. Fantasy playoff time, Bloom.
Too many decisions. Too many.
Too many questions. Let's try to answer some.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
Patrick Mahomes is upset. He's mad. You got to get mad. You got to get angry. And Mahomes certainly is angry, Bloom. So let's talk about Kansas City against the New England Patriots. How does KC respond after the embarrassing loss to the Buffalo Bills? Why is Kadarius Toney still on the team? Anyway, I'm fickle. I would cut guys in Madden as soon as they fumbled the ball. So anyway, KC side, they got a lot to prove, and we'll have a lot of popcorn watching this one.
Yeah, I think that, like we talked about with Mike McDaniel, how does he get his team to respond? How does Andy Reid, not a fiery guy, how does he get his team to respond? Patrick Mahomes, who probably you don't get too cute when you're setting your lineup to bench him because New England's defense is missing some firepower, but it's still Bill Belichick. Still plays spoiler. You saw him, frustrating Mitchell Trubisky isn't quite the same as frustrating Patrick Mahomes. Don't know if we're going to see Isaiah Pacheco. So you have Jerick McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Edwards-Helaire, a little more appeal, not more than McKinnon, but more than last week, as you would expect Kansas City to control this game, controlling it with Rashee Rice. We don't have questions anymore about whether to play him. Only receiving touchdown for the Chiefs last week, and Travis Kelce, who is a pretty good passer apparently. But isn't that Kadarius Toney in a nutshell? Isn't that the decision of whether to trade for Kadarius Toney in a nutshell? You know, he could take you this close to ecstasy, but no, because of him.
Yeah, and that's the reason why. New England side, because of Bill Belichick, as we talked about in part 1 of the Week 15 preview, reports already surfacing. We did have people in the chat room or it was on Twitter that were saying, like, Belichick doesn't even talk to the headset anymore. Like, he's checked out, Bloom. But it's Belichick. It's at home. They'll try to take something away. That something's probably Travis Kelce. Not sure if it works. How do they counter that on the flip side? And offensively, just the disaster that is the 2023 New England Patriots offense.
Yeah, except for that one half against the Steelers. And that's the thing, they get to play spoiler. This was supposed to be the Monday night game, right? So how do you know that Bill Belichick's on the way out when the NFL says, actually, it's like, we were kidding. We can actually flex the Monday night game out when it's this bad of a team, this New England team. We don't want to force the viewing public to watch them. And real quick aside, Cease, decisions to fire coaches at the end of the season are often made this early. Yeah, this isn't unprecedented, right?
No, not.
Why do we know about it?
We shouldn't know about it.
We shouldn't. And Tom Curran, I don't know. Does Bill Belichick cross some of the wrong people? You know, don't make people mad that buy ink by the gallon or oil drum or whatever the old saying was. I don't know. I just think it's fascinating because there's plenty of times in the past, dozens, hundreds of times, that maybe people covering the team knew that the decision to fire the coach was already made, but we don't hear about it until Black Monday. Anyway, why am I talking about this? Because you're going to play Ezekiel Elliott and maybe in deep leagues, Demario Douglas, if he's back. I don't know. I'm kind of worried about his concussion. And that's it. Play spoiler. Give the Foxborough fans. It's going to be weird, Cease. Are the Foxborough fans going to come out in a love fest for Belichick for the last few times they get to root for his team? Or is it just going to be empty because they've moved on? And, the Boston Bruins have been pretty good.
I'll take your word for it. Giants and Saints coming up next. Is one down in New Orleans in your neck of the woods, Bloom, but this time with more Tommy DeVito. DeVito fever across the Big Easy. So let's talk about it and how things look different now for the Giants. Joe always says it, right? Things change pretty quickly around here. Yeah, Tommy DeVito went from a punchline and went from a player I didn't even remember I saw at the Shrine Bowl because my notes on him were so bad to now, he's kind of the talk of the talk.
It's great, Again, as a quarter Italian myself, my grandmother's name, may she rest in peace, Carmela Rossello, Carmela's Bar. I still have my grandfather's pull league champion jacket from Carmelo's. It's great. It's great. And boy, the Italian community, I mean, we talked in part one about the potential for Jimmy Garoppolo to start. They're going to adopt their heroes. Franco's Italian Army, remember that?
Mhm.
And Tommy DeVito. And I suppose in this postmodern America, there is something sad that we don't have as much ethnic pride in a sense of, hey, we're proud of where we came from. We're proud of the history. We're proud of the culture. We're proud of the food. We're proud of the music. We're proud of everything we share because we're part of this group. And the funny thing is, if a Saturday Night Live or a comedy troupe had done something like what we saw, the tailgate with the 300 chicken cutlets and the agent with the horn, every Italian knows about that whole gold horn you wear around your neck, all right? It probably would have got slammed for being insensitive, right? But no, you lean in, you embrace it. It's Jersey. How much do you love
we
this
used to do?
Yeah. How much do you love this story? How much do you love this for Tommy DeVito? And of course, his agent's happy because he just made a lot of money, some percentage of some future contract. Saquon Barkley, you have to love this. And DeVito has a little bit of appeal. We did see Bryce Young disemboweled in the Superdome last week. So Tommy DeVito maybe comes back to earth against the Saints defense. Wan'Dale Robinson starting to take off as a what the heck flex, getting involved as a runner and a receiver. Is Darren Waller coming back for this one? But like you said, Cease, we've seen this team. Here are some of the chapters in the Giants story this year. Why did we sign Daniel Jones? The defense sucks. Saquon Barkley can't stay healthy. What does this team even have to build around? Wait a second, the defense is actually pretty good. Saquon Barkley is still a franchise player. This team is actually heading in a decent direction. With or without Daniel Jones, there's building some pride. And again, if you're not in the playoffs or playing for the playoffs, you're playing spoiler, and the Giants are doing a pretty good job of that.
Well, what are the Saints doing then? Derek Carr always scares me. It's like, just stay healthy, please. Don't get another brain injury. But the Saints side of things, having to deal with this Tommy DeVito wave of positivity. How do the Saints respond in Week 15?
Yeah, and this is a team that controls its own destiny. They took Tampa Bay again. They controlled their own destiny. Saints playoffs last year, right? Lost the game 16-3. They were up and with just a few minutes left. That one had a low win probability too. Derek Carr is banged up, so it's probably not going to be an exciting passing game. And Wink Martindale's defense is playing better. You play Chris Olave, but you have lower expectations. Plus, Rashid Shaheed might be back for this one. You're going to play Alvin Kamara, but Jamal Williams is going to have his part of the backfield, or Taysom Hill. And if you want to play him, you want to win a fantasy playoff game with Taysom Hill in at tight end. But at the same time, depending on the practice status, you probably will bench him unless we see him get that full practice in. And this will be a boring offensive game. Okay, this is not going to be a fantasy bonanza, but there's a lot on the line for the Saints.
A lot on the line for the New Orleans Saints, and we get to Atlanta, and Carolina is up next for this contest. And well, Atlanta side, Bloom, it should be one way with Bijan Robinson leading the way. Kyle Pitts is always a mystery. Is Drake London going to go off again?
Right.
And it's Desmond Ridder the key to your fantasy championship?
Yeah, Ridder rides again. Tremendous fantasy game, second one he's had against the Bucs. Now, Carolina, on the other hand, Ejiro Evero, I wonder if they're going to retain him. I can see some retaining coach is part of the problem. The ownership foisting a coach on a new head coach. Then again, why wouldn't you want Evero as your defensive coordinator? Anyway, the defense has been the bright spot, and they've been limiting quarterback production. So I don't know if you're going to get too cute with it with Desmond Ridder in this one. It should be more Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. And this team doesn't control their own destiny after losing to Baker Mayfield and the Bucs, but you think they could still end up in the mix. If not in the mix for the division, they still could make the playoffs as a wild card team. So keep it simple. If you're throwing to Drake London, London's in your lineup, but it's out of play action, high percentage plays. Same thing with Kyle Pitts. Again, maybe in your lineup after he had that touchdown, long one last week against bad coverage. But you would expect Bijan Robinson to touch the ball 25 times. You would expect Tyler Algier to touch the ball 15, 18 times. And just hope that your defense, well, you don't have to hope because it's Bryce Young, there's not going to be much for the Panthers offense.
Yeah, and I was going to transition to the Carolina side and say, what are we even talking about in the fantasy playoffs? You really trusting the Carolina Panthers? Really?
Adam Thielen, maybe, just because if AJ Terrell's on Jonathan Mingo outside, that just forces the targets to Adam Thielen. And we haven't had a true garbage time for Thielen for a while. Maybe that's the problem. They were only down 14-6 going into the fourth quarter. You are going to play Atlanta's defense if you can. New Orleans defense, number one fantasy defense last week. You are going to play Chuba Hubbard, at least as a flex. He's showing a lot. And there's been some talk that he really wasn't healthy yet. He had been battling so many injuries over the first few years of his career, and now you're seeing what healthy Chuba Hubbard can do, and you're seeing what Bryce Young can do, and it's not pretty.
It's not good. Washington against the Rams has some intrigue, mainly on the Rams side, Bloom. So let's talk about the Commanders first up and how they will attack on the road in SoFi. And honestly, Bloom, can they keep up? That's my largest question for the Commanders this week.
Yeah, I know the answer is no. I can already tell you. I saw the answers to the test. I snuck in the teacher's desk seat. I got the answer key. The answer is no. So Sam Howell. I mean, Sam Howell is playing about well Sam Howell can play, but that's the problem. I mean, not for fantasy. It's a doable matchup for fantasy. He doesn't have momentum. And you wonder, Eric Bieniemy having an extra week to prepare for this game, but is Eric Bieniemy preparing for his head coaching interviews? What he's preparing for right now? I mean, that's what I would advise him to be preparing for. Right? Chicago or whoever looking at him. Yeah. Is Brian Robinson okay? If not, Antonio Gibson gets into our lineup as a flex play. Curtis Samuel, maybe more attractive play than Terry McLaurin because you're going to have time to throw downfield to Terry McLaurin. I'm not saying Terry McLaurin should be on your bench, but going back to Marcy Rossman, did Terry McLaurin bring you this year? Nah, not much. Logan Thomas didn't necessarily bring you. If you want a safe tight end who's going to catch 3 or 4 passes, he can do that for you. And if you want an exciting quarterback who is going to remind us of his glory days, which weren't that long ago, again, yeah, that's Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford with now with more Kyron Williams and Cooper Kupp coming through after the slump. Like it's Cooper Kupp. So Marcy Rossman rule. Did Cooper Kupp bring you? Not really, but
it's
momentum.
Washington.
And it's Washington, Bloom. And you talk about momentum. Kupp's got the momentum and Puka Nacua. So let's talk about this Rams offense at home looking to dominate.
Yeah, and you make an exception when it's facing the Washington defense, right? So if someone said, I'm playing Matthew Stafford over Patrick Mahomes, let's say, okay, it's Washington's defense. They're not that bad. It shows up in the numbers, and it shows up on the field. Kyron Williams, by the way, a lot of fantasy playoff teams are going to be starting Kyron Williams. You know why? Because if you drafted Kyron Williams in the 15th, 16th round, if you picked him up first week, even though he missed like 4 or 5 weeks during the middle of the season, Kyron Williams, y'all. And not people saw this one coming, but wow. What Kyron Williams, again, it's not with gaudy physical tools, right? He's not making ankle breaking moves in the open field. He's not carrying 3 tacklers, right? He's just a really solid running back who's executing everything that's being asked. Sean McVay offense that, like a Kyle Shanahan offense, can often just create production for competent players. He's more than competent. Puka Nacua is more than competent. Cooper Kupp, Davis Allen, you're really deep. But that's just, again, showing you Davis Allen, who I think we all had pegged as a blocking tight end, had a nice fantasy game in his first start because this offense with Matthew Stafford's got some run, and maybe this team has some run to get to the playoffs.
4 games down, 4 games to go, plus the ever popular what the heck flex. But first, we're giving back to St. Jude this holiday season. We're giving 20% of every new premium subscription sold for the week of December 11th to December 15th to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. One of the best out there, true angels, true heroes, certainly at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, finding cures and saving children. We're giving back to St. Jude this holiday season, 20% of every new premium subscription sold for the week. Through December 15th, 20% of that goes to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. It is simply fantastic. The 49ers and Cardinals is up next here, Bloom. And, well, you mentioned explosive physical gifts in a Shanahan offense. Yeah, when it's a standard guy, it's incredible, right? When it's Tatum Bell, you can have pretty nice output. When it's Clinton Portis, you can dominate. When it's Christian McCaffrey, you can dominate. I'm saying dominate a lot today, Bloom. The 49ers side, though, looking to do that D word to their opponent.
Yeah, and this one, just sit back and watch a well-oiled machine. Enjoy it. Just don't get anyone hurt. And yes, if someone said I'm starting Brock Purdy over Patrick Mahomes, well, why would you? How many weeks out of the last 6 or 7 weeks has Purdy outscored Mahomes? Brock Purdy is a bona fide fantasy quarterback one, and it's not just because of his talent. And I was off on this. I was still holding on to the Trey Lance back in the off season. Maybe Trey Lance can give them something to think about while Brock Purdy's hurt. No, all they gave him to think about was what level draft pick are we going to get for Trey Lance. But there's some fancy analysis out there that said, well, if you say Brock Purdy has the best running back, 2 of the best wide receivers, 1 of the best tight ends, 1 of the best play callers, how is he not a fantasy quarterback one? But it wasn't just that. Let's give credit to Purdy. Let's give credit to Purdy for his decision-making, for his ability. Because if it was just that easy, we'd be saying that about Nick Mullins or other players who had a chance to drive this Ferrari. Again, just don't get anyone hurt. We want to, especially Purdy, because remember, that's when it all came to a halt last year. And who knows, Cease, after watching this year, maybe if Purdy had stayed healthy in the NFC title game, we would have had Mr. Irrelevant, Mr. Very, very relevant.
Yes, making that money. Straight making that money. Is that Clyde Carson? Anyway, let's talk about the Cardinals. My brain just froze. It's the Cardinals. I think Michael Wilson might be back sometime. Why am I talking about that? It's fantasy playoffs.
Yeah.
You're starting very few. You're starting James Conner and
Trey McBride.
Trey McBride. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it. I mean, watch the practice reports on Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown may be, but the thing is, if you're trying to decide whether to put Kyler Murray in, Kyler Murray, first of all, has missed a lot of games against San Francisco lately. And when he's been in, I think in the last 3, he's had 1 good fantasy game. And this is a good San Francisco defense. And who knows how much Murray has to contribute. He hasn't actually been playing all that well in this new offense. And the next 3 games are at Chicago, at Philadelphia. Here's how you're not going to be able to evaluate Kyler Murray. Put him outdoors in Chicago and Philadelphia in December, right? I mean, you would expect him to not necessarily be a franchise quarterback in those games and then finish with Seattle. So again, the big question here, every week we talk about it because, well, Arizona's out of the playoff hunt, is do you go forward with Kyler Murray or not? And again, do you go forward in your fantasy playoffs if you're counting on this offense? Probably not.
Probably not. Dallas and Buffalo. Let's just savor the moment, right? And really, the Cowboys are plenty exciting for multiple reasons and multiple players, and all of your fantasy players will have stars on their helmets this week. The Buffalo side is more interesting. So let's talk about Dallas, how they will get after it with Dak and company. They have a juggernaut. If they can keep it on the road, you got a juggernaut, Dallas. See what they can do on the road against Buffalo.
Yeah. Dallas. Well, let's start with Dallas again. Speaking of the teacher's answer key, if before the season the question was which offensive coordinator head coach duo will make the most effective midseason adjustments during the bye week, I don't think many of us would have said Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer. No, none of us would have. Yet that's where we are. And Dak Prescott, everybody. And this time, Jerry's going to be happy to sign the check, right? $300 million. Hey, $400 million. If they can win a Super Bowl. This is a good game to continue to test them. And they just play blowouts. Tony Pollard's in your lineup. There's more Rico Dowdle. You're not necessarily putting him in your lineup, but this could forecast maybe not, just like the KC and Buffalo game, maybe not an offensive fireworks game. And again, we're going to be watching the weather. I don't think it's going to be that cold. It might be rainy. CD Lamb, hello, welcome. Jake Ferguson probably staying in your lineup. Just had a little bit of a lull after that scoring streak coming out of the bye. Maybe Brandon Cooks, he is a what the heck flex, but he's shown that ceiling. But again, if this game, Buffalo's defense has been better than advertised with some injuries they've been overcoming that. They've been overcoming a lot. And the schedule makers, the destiny, overcoming. If it's the Bills, what do you need to overcome to exercise the demons? The Cowboys.
Yeah. You need it. You need it. And you mentioned Chris Berman in the last show. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Okay. Well, I'm curious and interested to see how they'll do it. How much is on Josh? How much they go to James Cook? Like how much others not named Stephon Diggs will be involved? I don't have those answers right now, Bloom, but I'm curious. And against Dallas, you're going to have to pick your spots.
Yeah. Wasn't Berman's Super Bowl pick every single year? Wasn't it Buffalo, San Francisco every single and the every single year? Put a pin in that, right? See, I'm going to do a baseball reference, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to do a baseball reference. But, you know, for baseball playoff games, they often have a hero from the past of a team throw out the first pitch, right? Do something to get the crowd like really amped before the game starts. You know who I would pick to throw out the first pitch, do the ceremonial coin flip for this one?
Jim Kelly.
Don Beebe.
Ooh. Okay. I got you.
Don Beebe. Look it up if you don't know, if you're too young to know. Never give up. Overcome. Wow, was it the right time to be featuring James Cook in the passing game? Joe Brady. Speaking of coordinators, we're going to be talking about Joe Brady in the same breath we talk about Jim Caldwell. You know, I'm here for it.
Yeah,
I'm here for it because when you're facing the Cowboys pass rush, isn't that the perfect time to be getting your running backs involved in the passing game?
Draw plays and screen passes.
I mean, that's it. That's it. And they're already showing such a high level of execution in this. And let's make sure to take a moment to acknowledge this, because what do people think of when they think of the greatness of Josh Allen? Oh, he's so big and his arm and he's athletic, but Josh Allen executes. Okay, Josh Allen is also a quarterback that can sit down with his offensive coordinator and set priorities and execute crisply, sharply, on time, and put a defense off balance. And I think this offense has now the modes. See, we've been bemoaning this. Maybe it wasn't establishing the run after all. Maybe it was just getting the running backs involved in the passing game. And we always talk about the short passing game to running backs as an extension of the running game anyway. So, yeah, James Cook should be in your lineup. Stephon Diggs should be in your lineup, but you're lowering your expectations. Dawson Knox is back. Dalton Kincaid. I don't know if you have a better option than him. You're lowering expectations for him. You're lowering expectations for Khalil Shakir, who's not even on the field as much now. You're lowering expectations for Gabe Davis. But I think that if the Bills can pull this off, the death blow probably is once they have the Cowboys defense off balance, the play action shot play to Gabe Davis. So you never know. But with the Cowboys pass rush, you don't expect a lot of long developing passing plays to be called.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm here for this because I think that if Buffalo can win this game, I don't want to say it's clear sailing because we don't want to then have a letdown. But if you can beat Kansas City and Dallas back to back, and they would go to 8-6 and pretty much, I mean, they already control their destiny for the playoffs, getting into the playoffs. Who cares if you have to go on the road? Eli Manning won 3 games on the road to get to the Super Bowl and win. So who cares if you have to go on the road?
Ben Roethlisberger did it. Like, go on the road, and no one will want to face you.
No, because the team will finally have belief in itself.
Believe and you can achieve. Bloom, you'll be shocked to know. Don't fall out of your chair. I was going to do a baseball reference when you talked about Jerry signing that Dak Prescott check. I was going to be like, you said 300 million, 400 million. I was like, go Ohtani money, baby.
7. He deferred 680 million of that. Did you see that? He's not going to get paid. He's getting paid $2 million a year. Talking about Tom Brady saying, geez, that's generous. $2 million a year until the end of the contract. I guess there's some maybe Japanese tax thing that he might be getting a break on or something, but that's wild. I mean, he's giving them the money interest free. The Dodgers are getting to hold that money interest free. So yeah, Ohtani, I got to get to Dodger Stadium next summer.
Okay, there you go. Baltimore and Jacksonville. Got to get to Jacksonville next summer, Bloom. Baltimore side first. And, well, okay, Buffalo is exciting. Baltimore is legit, like crazy talented, clicking, momentum, passing game. Isaiah Likely, they can run enough. You get close, they'll push it in. Like, okay, Baltimore is just kind of in keep it going, don't get anybody hurt mode. And you'll be the favorite in the AFC.
Yeah, all the expectations, which they should have, because we finally saw last week the Todd Monken offense come to fruition. 43 pass attempts for Lamar Jackson, 15 running back rush attempts. And you just love that what they can do with the diversity of targets, right? Odell Beckham can be a deep target. Zay Flowers can make you miss in a phone booth. Isaiah Likely ripping up the seam. Of course, you have in the backfield, Keaton Mitchell speed. You have Gus Bus downhill, try to stop that. This is fun, and this should be a really, really fun offense. We saw Joe Flacco and the Browns offense look pretty good against this Jacksonville defense last week. No rest for the weary Jacksonville Jaguars. Good news, Jags fans, you do have the tiebreakers on Houston and Indy. So if you lose this one, you're still probably okay.
You're okay, Jacksonville, because, well, you have the toughest quarterback on the planet. Like, how did he play? How did Trevor Lawrence play? Anyway, let's discuss his weapons around him and how he will go, well, hopefully through the air to beat this Baltimore team.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, very vaunted pass defense that Matthew Stafford made look very beatable. Will Trevor Lawrence do that? Probably in your lineup. I think you got a full practice in already this week. So he's okay. He's back in your lineup. And we saw with Zay Jones out there, he gets back to being an elite fantasy quarterback. We're not as worried about Baltimore. Zay Jones led the team in targets last week. And you would think against Baltimore in their pass rush that Calvin Ridley's more of a decoy. I'm not saying to put Ridley on the bench. He's still a worthy boom bust wide receiver 3 flex type, but Zay Jones becomes a much more interesting sleeper here. Parker Washington, a little deeper than Zay Jones, but he did score last week. Evan Ingram, really, that's who we should be talking about. What he's been doing the last few weeks is pulling your team to victories, week winning performances at tight end. I don't know if that will continue this week, but again, if Davis Allen can have like 4 for 50 and a touchdown against Baltimore, Ingram can double that.
He can do it. Let's go do it on a Monday night, Philadelphia and Seattle side. And this one on the road in front of the 12th man. And Philadelphia, they've got to get on the track. They've got to start building that momentum themselves. Now is the time. And Seattle's almost the perfect opponent to do that against, especially in a hostile environment up there in the Northwest. So, fantasy playoff time. Where are your chips? Specifically the Philadelphia backfield. We know it can be confounding. Will there be more for Dallas Goedert with a week under his belt? And of course, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, whatever, with Jalen Hurts. We know that, Bloom. But this is going to be a test. Do they pass?
Yeah, the test here is, you just got thumped by Dallas, okay? But you also had a lot of self-inflicted wounds, fumbles, miscues, right? They didn't even score an offensive touchdown in that game. So is it just a bad night? Is it just mistakes you put behind you? Or do you lose the invincibility? All of a sudden, we're going to take care of unfinished business, get back to the Super Bowl, not let it just hang in the ref's hands at the end. Do you even make it back to the Super Bowl? You go from being potentially the number 1 seed to now potentially playing on the road in the first week of the playoffs, at least if the playoffs started today. But Jalen Hurts, well, it's a good thing it wasn't the fantasy playoffs last week. For some, it might have been, because Jalen Hurts teams, a lot of them in the playoffs, it was a end of your season kind of performance for fantasy because of those miscues. DeAndre Swift's just a what the heck flex. They have not been establishing the run. They talk about it, not doing it. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, yes, of course. Dallas Goedert, you got to, I think he didn't necessarily bring you because he's been hurt, hasn't had some ceiling games, but we know what he can do, especially against Seattle, where now their corners, I know Devin Witherspoon got banged up last week, but you're not going to try to attack their corners. You attack the middle of the field with Dallas Goedert. And if you're Geno Smith and you can play, you just hope that the Eagles' pass rush attack can be kept at bay.
Yes, and how do you keep them at bay? We talked about it a little bit earlier. Draw plays and screen passes. I don't know if Seattle's going to do that, Bloom. If they want
brilliant Brian Schottenheimer.
Exactly. I don't have him anymore. Get that guy out of here. So how does Seattle on Monday night do their best Dallas impression?
Well, you're right, Cecil. I guess, you're doing double duty here, telling coaches how to beat teams. But you're right that if you're Seattle, you want to shorten this game. You want it to be a 2017 kind of game script. You don't want to get in a shootout with Philadelphia. You don't want to let it hang out. That's when Geno Smith starts to make mistakes against pressure, you want to run it through the backfield. Again, 35, 40 touches between Walker and Charbonnet, who could give you a little different modes. Charbonnet maybe a little more in the passing game. Walker more physicality, finishing runs, setting up Geno Smith in makeable third downs, long drives, even if they're field goal drives, keeping Jalen Hurts on the sidelines, and then trying to make some plays on defense. You're going to keep DK Metcalf in. You keep Tyler Lockett in, even if Drew Lock is in. Lockett. And that's it. Jackson Smith and Jigba just showing some things, but hasn't arrived for fantasy yet. Playoffs are slipping away for the Seattle team. And even in this game, they still have work to do. But if this game, then they'll look at the rest of the schedule and say, and the rest of those games also.
Now, it is the Audible Week 15 preview, part 2, Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, and it's time, although it's dangerous time because it's fantasy playoffs, our ever-popular What the Heck Flex. You're looking over your lineup, you just need some God-blessed punch. And that's why we're here for at the running back position. I love Tajay Spears, What the Heck Flex. I believe Devin Singletary is in that What the Heck Flex level. So is Zamir White or a Jet McKinnon. These situations that are split to Damian Pierce in that What the Heck Flex level. Kenneth Gainwell, we just talked about the Eagles. He's a What the Heck Flex. Rico Dowdle there as well. To the wide receiver position for me this week, Blooms, I go to What the Heck Flex. I'm talking, Brandon Cooks, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Gabe Davis, we mentioned if there's any time for a deep shot with Buffalo, they'll set it up. I'm going to put Brandon Johnson in. Maybe should be Jerry Jeudy, but I'll put Brandon Johnson in again. Practice on Thursday. We'll figure it out and see if there's a change coming. Anyway, Bloom, let's get to week 15. Some of your ever popular What the Heck Flexes.
Yeah, and hopefully you don't have to start any What the Heck Flexes. But if you do, I hope they're the reason you win, and there'll be someone you always celebrate. Running back, Zamir White, you mentioned Ty Chandler, depending on Alexander Madison's status. Chase Brown, you saw what they're doing in the screen game with his speed. Dante Foreman, both Kansas City running backs, Devin Singletary, Tajay Spears, Antonio Gibson, if Brian Robinson's out, Keaton Mitchell, maybe even Gus Edwards. Wide receiver, a lot of things to work out with the Chargers, depending on injuries, though. Maybe Joshua Palmer. If Palmer's not back, maybe Quentin Johnston. If Keenan Allen's playing, maybe neither. Jerry Jeudy mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Dobbs. I think Jaden Reed has graduated from What the Heck Flex. He's just in our lineup every week now. Noah Brown. Is CJ Stroud going to play? Nico Collins going to play? Again, these are things, if you're still in it, you're paying close attention. Curtis Samuel had momentum going into the bye, and he could do some stuff against the Rams. Zay Jones, we mentioned. And I just want to mention how much I love our audience. And I know some of you don't even have a playoff team, and you're hanging out with us. And some of you, if you lose this week and aren't in the playoffs, hang out with us next week. We feel your presence. We feel your love. We feel your approval. We feel your embrace. I hope we can return just even 10% of that, because that's a lot of love, and we can never have enough.
We appreciate you all. He's Sigmund Bloom. Follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show is at the Audible. Do the YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. He's Sig. I'm Cease. We are the Audible. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty?